Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Rangers review post Old Firm Q&A show. It's the show where you drive it. So if you want to get your point across, please do so. Myself and Jonny will get through as many as possible. Firstly, apologies, we are a little late. JB says, Santa should have got you a new clock for Christmas, Derek. I'm not taking the flack for this one, JB. Jonny's grimacing there. We've had a lot on our plate, but yeah, we're here now. So good things come to those who wait. But it's great to have you back on, Jonny.
Yeah, good to be on, Derek. Obviously, a difficult result today and plenty to chew over. So one thing's for sure, as is always the case after a Old Firm derby, there's always lots and lots to talk about, and certainly this game provided reams and reams for us to chew over. I'm sure we could be here 3 hours from now if we wanted to extend it, no problem. So let's get stuck into what people want to ask us about, I suppose.
Yeah, there is a host of questions already, so apologies, folks, if I've not reached your one, but I'll get to the first one here that I can spot. Evening, everyone. Is it time for a rethink of formation? I think Cantwell is better moving forward from 8 rather than back to goal 10. I think we need to dominate the ball more in midfield. Thoughts? First of all, just on Cantwell, I thought he was pretty woeful today, Jonny. That was a really poor performance from him. Rangers need more from him. I said in our video when we seen the teams that he was a potential game match winner for Rangers today, and I was really excited about seeing him and see what he could do. But he was just all over the place for me, and he really has to do much better. Other than that, in terms of a rethink of formation. Listen, I think as much as it's always a sore one to lose in these games, I don't think there's much between the teams. I fully trust what Philip Clement is doing at Rangers. I think he's worked wonders with the group of players that he inherited from Michael Beale. He will improve that squad in January. He's already done so by bringing in Fabio Silva. I don't necessarily think it's a change of formation Rangers need to look towards. I think it's just personnel. Up front, Rangers were toothless as they have been for much of this season, failing to take their chances. I think if Rangers can improve on that side of the pitch, they'll give themselves more of a shout of going on and winning this league. In terms of the midfield, yes, I would like to see that strengthened in January. Thought Dujon Sterling was excellent today. Again, I think he's fast becoming Rangers' best midfielder in there. But what do you make of this point, Jonny? Is it time for a rethink of formation?
Well, this is a great question, and there's two parts to it, Derek. First part, Todd Cantwell, very good player, absolutely not good enough in the big games for Rangers so far in his career. You don't survive as a Rangers player if you don't turn it on against Celtic. It's as simple as that, and he hasn't done that. Apart from the game that didn't matter, which was the 3-0 at Ibrox, when he was excellent. All very well turning up when there's no pressure on you, but when there is major pressure on, when it counts, you need to show yourself. Todd Cantwell, good, talented player though he is, hasn't been doing that. He's too lightweight for these games at times. Flitters in and out. Can't do that. Just can't get away with it. Derek, you'll not survive. So for all the talent he has, I would say next Old Firm game, not for me. Not for me. Second point, can you just put that question back up, Derek? There was another point I wanted to address on that.
Yeah. Let me whack it back up here. There's so many, so I've got it here. There you go.
I don't think midfield was the problem today. I thought in midfield Rangers were pretty good. John Lundstrom, I thought, had a decent game, made a lot of interceptions. The way Rangers play, they're not dominating the midfield. That's not how they're looking to kind of set up. They're not passing the ball about and kind of boring teams to death. It's rock and roll football under Philip Clement, and what they're trying to do is get the ball forward quickly into the wide areas. And what you see is Lundstrom and Sterling recovering a lot of second balls. I thought both were really good in there today. I'm not having this widely held opinion that Callum McGregor strolled through the game and anything like that. Not when they were around. I think the problem was Cantwell didn't stick closely enough to him, didn't stick to him like glue, which is what he should have done, and that allowed Cantwell a bit more. That allowed McGregor a little bit more freedom. But for me, Derek, I don't think there was any issue with Lundstrom and Sterling. Not at all. In terms of dominating the ball more, no, that's not the way Philip Clement plays. So I know why you think that, but that's not what's going to make this team work. For me, it's requiring better players in the final third, and to me, that was the big problem today, Derek. Fundamentally, Celtic have a player called Kyogo who you can get the ball to and will ping one at the top bin from 25 yards.
Yep.
Rangers have Cyril Dessers.
Yeah.
Now, I was getting pelters the other night when I said Cyril Dessers is not good enough to be a Rangers number 9. Wondering if those same people will be giving me pelters in the comments tonight. Because simply, he's only in there because Danilo is out and Roof is out. If these guys were at a fitness level where they would be in, Cyril Dessers would be nowhere near this team for me. And there's a reason for that. He's not good enough. And he's never going to be good enough. And he wasn't good enough, so he shouldn't have been signed in the first place. It is a terrible, terrible signing, that. £4.5 million, nearly £5 million spent on a guy who is so erratic. He's erratic in his positioning. He's erratic in his finishing. He's erratic in his movement. It must be very, very difficult to play up front with Cyril Dessers because you really don't know what he's going to do next. So I think the main problem that Rangers had in this game, a lot of people are missing it. For me, the problem is just these two guys Cantwell and Dessers were well off the pace. Cantwell has given Rangers a lot over his time at the club. Not in the big games, but in a lot of games. So he's someone you'd want to keep around. But he shouldn't be playing in the next Celtic game because this one passed him by, and it's the latest in a long line of these big moments that have passed him by. But as for Dessers, you've got to imagine Silva's going to be straight in there, Derek.
Yeah, surely. Although speaking to the PSV commentator yesterday, he did tell me that he played from the left, which leads me to believe that when Sima goes away with Senegal, that might be his position. But yeah, on Dessers, I still can't believe that Cremonese knocked back Rangers' initial offer for him. It's quite staggering, really, because he has been woeful, and he was again today. So yeah, Rangers really need to bring in reinforcements in January up top. It could be the difference between winning the league and not. Right, let's get to another question. Dave McFarlane raises the point here. He says, Derek, can you please give your opinion on this? Are we now starting to see why Cantwell's previous managers have binned him? Or am I being a bit harsh? He hasn't done anything at all this season. I know that Norwich changed their manager from Daniel Farke to, I'm not entirely sure who it was that fell out with him, or it might have been Farke at the time. He went to Bournemouth. Didn't quite happen for him. It remains to be seen if it's going to work for him at Rangers. I've been on record saying I think he's Rangers' best player, but he's certainly not showing it at this moment in time. He's a difference maker for Rangers. Rangers need more from him, and today he simply didn't reach the standards that I'm sure he will set himself as well. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think he'll be binned by Philippe Clement in January. I do still think he's got a big role to play between now and the end of the season. But he has to up his game. There's no doubt about it. There's a point coming in here as well. Just on Taven Goldson, Kyle raises a point. He says, first question, why is Taven Goldson consistently picked? If we persist with rewarding failure, why do we expect to see any improvement in performances? I don't think Goldson was his most scintillating best today, Jonny. Thought Tav, apart from his goal, which I have to say was another absolute beauty. We know he's got it in his locker. Sensational finish from the free kick. If Kieran Dill picked him out at the back post late on, then we could be talking about another Tavernier double and a very different outcome to the game. But what do you make of this question? I'm not having the old Tav and the captaincy sort of stuff again. I think he's proven that he's a good Rangers captain. I'm not for one for changing the captaincy at this moment in time. Goldson, we know it was a late call for him playing in this game. Wasn't at his best, I don't think, but neither was Leon Balogun. But what do you make of this question? What is your response to this?
Well, start with Goldson first. He's just coming after an injury. I don't think he really put... Did he put a foot wrong? Did he make a mistake? If he did, it wasn't anything major. Neither goal is Goldson's fault. You look at both; they are both outstanding strikes, especially Kyogo's. I mean, that's a goal out of nothing, a very low XG chance. And as Clement said, it's not the kind of goal that you see a guy score every week. And if he did, he had 40 goals already this season. So it's a 1 in a million hit, but a brilliant strike, and he deserves credit for doing that. And it's not the first time he's hit a terrific goal in an Old Firm game. But I don't think Goldson really did too much wrong. Tavernier, I don't think he had a good game. But then Tavernier does what Tavernier does and steps up. pings one into the top corner and brings Rangers back into the game. He's done it so many times. He's doing it consistently now, even at 32. He's the one Rangers player that has a sort of elite Rangers mentality, because from right back, he's a major personality on the team, and he's pulling them back into games or leading them through games and taking penalties that are important. I looked at Tavernier's penalty record the other day. He's not far off. I think he's not far off the penalty record for the club now. I think he's 2 or 3 away, and the ones that he's missed, he's never missed a penalty in a game Rangers have lost. So every pressure penalty that he's ever had, he scored. So that
should have had one today. Should have had one today.
Well, that's another argument. I'm sure we'll get into that. So for me, Tavernier will easily surpass Jonny Hubbard's penalty record. I think it's 67. Don't know offhand, 67 or 65, and Tav's very, very close to that. And I think he's still the best player in the team, fundamentally. If you're talking about a player of the season, James Tavernier, especially since Michael Beale's left, has been outstanding under the new manager. So he did not play well today, but he still stepped up in a big moment and popped that free kick in.
Yeah. Right, let's get to the next question. Thank you for your question, Kyle. A point here from Jonny says, do you think that the board should push for outside officials and VAR team to be brought in? Obviously, we need the audio released. Totally agree. We need the audio released. Philip Clement has come out, and I think he spoke very well with regards to that decision not to award Rangers a penalty in that first half for a blatant Alistair Johnston handball. It was late, midway through the second half, we actually got Sky produced the offside lines, and we were told that it was ruled out because there was an offside given in the build-up. Philip Clement not happy about that explanation. He says on the referee calls, we finally got the lines afterwards, but the decision was not made about an offside. The decision was made there was no penalty because no handball. That was the decision, and it's a really strange one for me. And he was asked, do you need more clarity at the time as well? This is on Sky, he says, for sure. I think the audio does need to be released between the VAR officials, which was Willie Collum on the monitor, and the match officials as well. In terms of pushing for outside officials and a VAR team to be brought in, I've said on record that the officiating in Scotland is poor for the top flight of Scottish football. It has to be a lot better. There's too much at stake in these games, especially, Jonny, for decisions like this to go the way they have gone. I mean, Nick Walsh, I think Celtic were very fortunate to keep 11 men on the park in that second half as well, with 2 blatant yellows, Bernardo and Goldson, and an elbow from Johnston on Abdallah Sima. Let's hope he's okay. He was down for some time receiving treatment to the side of his face. I know that Steve Conroy has come out afterwards and gave his comment on the decision not to award Rangers a penalty in that first half. He says, offside is irrelevant. VAR can only check for an offside if there is a consequence, i.e. a goal. There wasn't. The telling situation is that the game was restarted with a goal kick, not an indirect free kick. Where do we go from here, Jonny?
Well, listen, I've got some information, and I think it's understood that Colum didn't consider it a handball worthy of an on-field review. So that's the kind of the guidance, I think, that as we understand it. But either way, an offside check would have followed any decision if they had given it. So if it had been given in that moment, it would have led to an offside. So that's where they stand at the moment. It does beg the question: is why didn't the referee make the offside hand signal? Because his hand signal was put his hand in the air and did that, as say, play on. So there's clearly some kind of level of breakdown there. But there's no doubt that Willie Collum in the first instance has made an absolute howler of a decision on the penalty in the first instance. because it's a stone waller. It's a stone waller. And clearly it should have been looked at multiple times.
There's a lot of pressure building up with officials prior to heading into this game. Typical for an Old Firm build-up, Jonny. We all heard about Rangers getting penalties and what have you from various quarters. It's becoming a bit nauseating, but the pressure on officials has been ramped up. What about this? Looking for officials perhaps from abroad or down south. Is that an avenue you think that Scottish football should be looking to go down?
Nah, I don't. I think leave these the wild conspiracy theories for elsewhere, Derek. I don't think that's a good shout at all. I don't think there's a problem with bias. I think there's a problem with decisions that being made that are incorrect, poor officiating, and I think if you go down the route that Scottish football's corrupt, and if you genuinely believe that it's corrupt, then you should be stopping watching it. If it was corrupt, then believe me, it'd be the biggest story in the history of the media, and every media man in the country, if there's any evidence of it, would be all over it. So I'm not buying that. I think it's ridiculous, preposterous, and I don't think there's a need for outside officials. I do think that they need to be more open so that fans understand fully why decisions are made, so you can get to the bottom of exactly what happened. So in this instance, I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of pressure on them to release the audio so that we can see exactly what went on. It was very odd the way it panned out, and I think Philippe Clement is right to bring it up in the post-match with regards to there being a sense that VAR coming into it and saying there's a penalty, what was it, 10, 15 minutes in the second half? It's saying it was the penalty was offside, sorry, but in the build-up.
Yeah, that's poor.
It just didn't feel right, did it, Derek? It just felt after they'd had a kicking in the halftime show on Sky from the pundits. You know, when you got Neil Lennon saying that he'd be incandescent with rage if he'd been the referee, if he'd been the manager on the opposing end of that, and saying that it was clear and obvious. And you know, Neil Lennon, you know, a bit like Chris Sutton, he likes a wind up in these scenarios sometimes. If he's being as straightforward as that, then you know it's an absolute stone waller. So, yeah, I think clearly there needs to be more that comes out from this in terms of more clarity, more information, more understanding of how the decision was arrived. And I think you're going to see a lot of calls for that over the coming days, and I would be amazed if Rangers weren't amongst the people calling for that. I just don't buy any of this sort of conspiracy theory stuff, Derek. We've heard from
I just think there's a lot of pressure
on that from other clubs over the last however many weeks, and it's just rotten. So yeah, not for me.
Scotland's, it's like the Goldfish Bowl up here. We all know about it. I think, who would want to be a referee? They need to lead other lives as well. They're not full-time, as we know. There's a lot of pressure on them. They're only human. I just think they're poor. And Scottish football deserves better than what is being served up at this moment in time. I did say prior to the game, I wish we were not speaking about referees and officiating. Unfortunately, we are. And it won't be the last time we're talking about them as well, because they're simply not good enough. We deserve a lot better. Right, let's get back to the football side of things with Rangers, and Aldo with a point here. He says, why did Deso stay on for the whole game? Surely Matondo would have been more effective up front after the red card. That's a question for Philippe Clement to answer, I'd imagine. Rabbi Matondo, since he's come back from injury, has looked a shadow of the player that we've seen at the start of the season. I don't know what it is, whether it's a confidence thing with him or he's just trying to get back up to speed. But Dessers at this moment in time is Rangers' only real option up top. Fabio Silva will be available for the game against Kilmarnock. I know that Joshua, when we were on the video prior to this, said he wouldn't start him. I would just chuck him in there if he's fit enough to start. Then I'd be playing him because Rangers need something else, something better up front there. But this for you, Jonny. Be surprised not to see Matondo.
It's a good shout. But I think Philippe Clement has earned trust tactically. I think he's done a really good job so far. I know exactly what he's saying in terms of Matondo pacing behind.
Yeah.
I think there's a danger of getting caught up in the idea that Deso's had a truly appalling game on the basis of that one moment where he absolutely has to take a shot. I thought he really pressed well in the first half, and actually I thought taking away that moment where he goes through in goal, he was pretty good. Second half, he just fell out, but the ball kept bouncing back off him.
He's not fit enough. Yeah, he's not fit to. Yeah.
No, he's just not a good enough player to drive.
Yeah,
that's championship. As simple as that, and that's not on him. That's on the decision makers and the last manager, Michael Beale, who put so much faith in him incorrectly. He did really well to win the ball, nipping ahead of, I think it was it Welsh or Johnson, I can't remember, and make the chance for himself. Then he did brilliantly to sort of get across Johnson, who was coming in from behind him. But he absolutely has to take a shot, and fundamentally that's the thing. The difference between Kyogo and Deso is if you swap them round, who's winning the game?
Oh, exactly. I know. That's the difference, unfortunately. Hopefully Rangers rectify it in January. Thanks for the question, Aldo. Maka gets in touch. Evening, Maka says, Jonny, in his interview with Chris Boyd on Sky, PC said he would give players a chance, not 10. Do you think he's made his mind up on certain players? Will we see certain players heading out the door next month, Jonny?
I think there will be players going out the door. I think Rangers will need to change up their squad a little bit. I was told a little while ago that there would be 5 coming in January. And wow. Derek, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really believe that when I was told it. But actually, now that Silva's come in so quickly, I think there might be another 1 or 2 over the coming days, or certainly over the next week or so. And I wouldn't be surprised now if that was the case, especially if Philippe Clement was able to get a couple of players out. As to who they'll be, I think it depends on fitness. Fundamentally, Derek, he's down to the bare bones. Lundstrom was playing today off the back of a knock. Goldson was playing today on the back of a knock. There's not too many options, you know. The whole thing about Dessers, if he comes off and put Matondo on, that was maybe one of the options that was out there. But he didn't have a plethora of things to choose from. So I think there's still a lot of moving parts for Rangers and a lot of decisions to make over the next few weeks. It's great that Silva's come in early. I think that's the sign of a club that's well organised when you get your transfer window almost done before it starts, because it means you've got the whole of January to get them going. So, for example, I'm presuming Silva, Derek, can go straight in against Kilmarnock.
He can, yeah.
So that is a wee boost, isn't it? In terms of you've got a £35 million striker to go in after you've been beaten at Parkhead in the next game. So that's definitely one that Rangers can look forward to, and I think we can all look forward to seeing what he's going to be like. As for those players that might not get another chance, I've always had a wee inkling that maybe Cantwell isn't quite the kind of player that suits Clement. I like Cantwell, as I've said before. I think he's really handy to have in European games and against the lower lights, but I can't say he's handy to have against Celtic because he's never produced it against Celtic, apart from that one game that I mentioned earlier. So he's one that I think maybe if you're a manager, you're thinking, I need a bit more. For me, Ross McCausland, he's a good talent. He's going to be a good player. He's lightweight for me in these games.
And he's played a lot of minutes, Jonny. I think. I mean, it'd be refreshing to bring him out from time to time. I think because he has just been integrated into that first team.
Yeah, he's very direct, and I don't want to be too critical of him because going forward, I think he caused Celtic real problems. But the other side of the game, the off the ball side of the game, I don't think it's quite so good. And these games they're always about physicality, Derek. I mean, I know I sound like an anachronism, and it's not really what I like myself. But you have to be cognizant of what this fixture's about, and you have to win the battle. And sometimes I just think he can be too easily almost muscled out of the game when everyone's playing at 110%.
Yeah.
And I thought we saw signs of that today. I thought Tav was awfully exposed at times. And that's not the first time that's happened. He makes up for it in some ways. He's very direct. You know, he's forced a great save from Joe Hart. People haven't really been talking about that save because there's been so much going on in the game. But it was a really great low drive that he made there, and Joe Hart's got down really well and made the stop. And that was a crucial save in the game. But for me, Cantwell's the one. Dessers, I think, listen, what can you say about Dessers other than there's no other option to play anyone else, really, unless you're going to go mad and put Rabbi Matondo, who's a winger, up front.
Yeah.
So I totally understand why he's playing him, and I don't know if Philippe Clement will have learned any more from today than he already knew.
I think it's telling as well. I mean, we all know about Sam Lammers, but the fact that he's not trusted to feature at all in the game tells you everything you need to know. If Rangers can find a buyer for him next month, then absolutely brilliant, because he's another one that has been a woeful signing. Right, let's move on. There's a point coming in here from Damien. He says, sign the Arbroath keeper as a Dessers replacement. I've seen this Arbroath playing a goalie up front. The things you didn't expect to see, but fair play to the lad. I think he wouldn't have done any worse than Dessers today. Right, next question from RFC72 is Dujon Sterling our new number 6 going forward? He's getting better and better every game in there. I thought he was good today, Jonny, and it's been a bit of a masterstroke from the manager to chuck him in there. I doubt we'd ever see him in midfield under Michael Beale, but he is improving game by game for me, and one of the first names in the team sheet, I would say, Dujon Sterling. I thought he was good. He just offers Rangers that athleticism, that physicality in midfield. He gets about. He's got great energy as well. Could he be the new number 6 going forward?
I really like him in there, Derek. I have to say, in Europe and in these type of games, I think Dujon Sterling is going to give you an awful lot. He's mobile, he's quick, he moves the ball quickly, got quick feet. I just think he's got everything in there. And if this was a guy that Rangers had brought in as a midfielder, you'd be saying, "Wow, what a signing this guy looks! How much did he cost?" You know, that's how good he's been. So, absolutely, I think he can obviously cover in for Tavernier when he's out. But we know Tavernier plays 55, 60 games a season without a problem. He's a machine. So in that case, I would absolutely keep Dujon Sterling in there and have him be in the mix alongside Ryan Jack, alongside John Lundstrom, alongside Nico Raskin. That's for me where he needs to be now. And I'd maybe go as far as to say, Derek, maybe bringing a young right back to deputise for Tavernier, and just say to Dujon Sterling, okay, he's an auxiliary fullback who can play left back or right back if needed, but fundamentally he's now considered a midfielder in the squad, because I think he's got...
Be that guy?
I'm not convinced about that, Derek. I'm not seen enough to be convinced about that. So that's how highly I think of Sterling so far. I can see a player there who could go for big money down the line.
Yeah, totally agree. Right, let's get to the next question that is coming in. And a few comments just off the back of this. Jed says, has that Dessers performance just added an extra $1 million or $2 million onto Shankland's valuation for Hearts? And John Robertson with the point says, Jonny, how much would you pay to go and get Shankland? I think I've said on record, Jonny, with you, I think maybe pushing towards £3 million to bring him in. Whatever Hearts want, pay the money. Rangers need this boy in.
I know why you're saying that, Derek, and that's 18 goals Shankland's got for Hearts. I mean, it's 17 goals, sorry, because he scored once today. I thought it was 2 that he got. No, it's just 1, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's 17 goals for Hearts. I mean, that's a very, very solid tally. That's more than any Rangers player while playing for the third best team in the land. Who are many, many points behind. I would like to see Lawrence Shankland arrive at Rangers. I just look at the situation though, Derek. You've got Hearts, a team that don't really need the money because they've got a billionaire benefactor, or a very close to being a billionaire benefactor.
Yeah.
And then you've got a Rangers board that I don't think will want to splash out the level of money that Hearts are looking for a guy who's 28 just now and 29 and I think 7 or 8 months. It's not going to be a signing that you're going to get bang for your buck for in terms of resale value. So you'd have to put it down as someone that you feel would guarantee you goals for the next 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, or however many he's got left in his career. So I suppose it depends on what the trigger fee is. Now, I've been kind of going under the impression, not just pulled out my backside, but from what I've heard, that there might be a negotiated fee of around £3.5 million that would suit all parties. But I'm starting to wonder whether even Hearts would accept that. And I'm starting to wonder whether Rangers would go that high. So I think it's a difficult one, Derek, because they really don't need to do anything with him. Yes, they've got a player trading model. Yes, they need to make a sale to kickstart it. Yes, he's 28 and they'll probably they never will get an opportunity to sell him as much again. If it goes to the summer, Derek, you're talking probably 2.5 max, maybe 1.5. His value is diminished. So I get all that, but Hearts at the end of the day, they just don't need the money. And that's always the driver in these deals for clubs in Scotland. And if that's not there, I think it could be a very difficult one to get over the line.
Yeah, just to interject a bit from the chat about Shankland, folks, we understand Rangers have asked the SFA to hand over the VAR audio relating to that penalty flashpoint in the first half with the Alistair Johnston handball. They're going to ask the SFA for the full audio conversation between Nick Walsh and Willie Collum to be sent to them. So that is Chris Jack that's just posted that on the Rangers Review site, folks. So interesting development to that story. So one to keep an eye on. Let's get to the next question from Scott Hammond. He says, is that Goldson and Balogun both suspended? Balogun will be suspended for the game against Kilmarnock. Goldson suspended for the game against Hibs. That is one of Rangers' games in hand next month at Easter Road due to a yellow card he picked up for trying to pick up after he was trying to waste time in the dying embers of the game today. Nick Walsh was handing out yellow cards like sweeties as the game whittled down. So Goldson will miss the game at Easter Road. Balogun will miss the game against Kilmarnock next up. So that is something for Philip Clement to address when those games approach. Right, let's get to next question that's coming in here. We've got a point on from Richard Purdy. He says, Jonny, what do you think of Ridvan's performance today? I've got to say that I'll answer this first briefly before we come to you, Jonny. I had reservations. I was slightly concerned that Celtic would try and target Rangers' left-hand side today. However, I was pretty satisfied with Ridvan's performance. I thought he was okay.
Yeah, he looked shaky at first, Derek, and I've got my notes down here beside me from the game, and I put on 6 minutes heavy Yilmaz's touch.
Yeah, he had a
and there's a couple of instances after that I thought he looked a bit shaky. But then on 21 minutes, I've written Yilmaz settling in, doing well versus Maeda. And listen, Dyson Maeda is so super fast that you know that he's going to give any fullback a difficult time. And we've seen Tavernier get a really hard time off Maeda in the past. I thought he handled him pretty well. And overall, I have to say, successful performance by Ridvan on the day. I don't think he was brilliant or anything like that, but I thought he grew into it as the game went on. And apart from the moment Maeda goes through on goal, which is a mistake by Balogun, who gives the ball away, and so it's nothing to do with Ridvan. I thought Ridvan was like 6, 7 out of 10, no problem at all for me. I thought he was decent.
Yeah, that being said, I think it's still an area of the pitch that Rangers should be looking to strengthen. Reports in Holland, and I know when I spoke to Yannick Elling, the PSV commentator yesterday, told me that Rangers sniffing about their left back, third choice left back, the Norwegian Fredrik Oppergaard, who is PSV will look to try and cash in on him. He's not getting much game time. PSV are looking to make Sergio Dest move permanent from Barcelona, and they've got another left back there. For the life of me, his name escapes me, but he's not getting a look in at PSV. He was on loan at Go Ahead Eagles last season, and it looks like PSV are looking to cash in on him. Just a young lad. I think that would be a decent option for Rangers. Of course, is the Niels Koppen link which is why I think that the Fabio Silva deal was pushed through, because he brought him to PSV last season, but certainly want to keep an eye on. I still think that Rangers do need to improve that left side of defence. Another player that's been linked to Rangers, RFC72 says, is there truth in Millions Manhoef, the Vitesse winger? Philip Clement was asked about him, incidentally, in his post-match interview with the BBC. He said, I never speak about players we are interested in or not, because then I speak every day about rumours. There are so many rumours in Glasgow and so many things that are wrong. We will speak about players who are in the building, and with Fabio, that is the case. He will push also like the rest to make it a great season. But sort of the profile that Rangers should be looking at, Jonny, that sort of winger, I think Rangers need to improve those areas of the pitch as well. So I wouldn't have any qualms if this young lad was brought in.
No, I like the look of him, but then I like the look of Carlos Pena. I think I've talked about this before from a YouTube video. So it's two, I don't know enough about him. I need to see once Josh or someone else on the Rangers Review has had a deep dive and really properly going through his stats and going through his games. I see what he has to offer. He's lightning quick. That's obvious from the video footage I've seen. He's got the ability to finish well if he's put into a situation. That's all also clear. He scored 4 goals this season. Not great return, but then he is playing at a team that are at the bottom of the league.
Yeah,
he's young, so to me, it looks like a cracking signing on the surface. Now, it may be with these super fast players, they don't have enough of a trick to work at Rangers, because remember, there isn't that space in the majority of games in behind to cause the damage. We've seen it with so many, Derek, now. You think back to someone like Jordan Jones. Before him, who was the guy they signed from St Johnstone? 500k under Mark Warburton.
No, not
super
Michael
fast.
O'Halloran.
Michael O'Halloran.
Yeah,
all he could do was run fast. Fundamentally, there's no space, so what are you going to do? Matondo is another one like that, very, very quick. He's got a lot to prove. So, yeah, I would be hesitant before getting too excited about it, but certainly on the surface level, looking at the age, looking at the profile, it does seem like the right kind of signing, and I do think there is potentially something in this one, Derek.
Yeah, I want to keep an eye on some more questions before we wrap up. First of all, Michelle Jones says, "Evening, Michelle. I'm asking, where's the players coming through our academy? Well, we've seen Ross McCausland make that breakthrough. Other ones we'll be looking at. Philip Clement as someone that isn't afraid to play young players. He's said that before on record, and he's done so at his previous clubs. I'm looking at the likes of Bailey Rice. Who else we've got there? Cole McKinnon has been on the bench a few times. That aside, Leon King, of course, it came on at Fir Park recently. I think we'll see a lot more of him. He's a big fan of Leon. Bailey Rice, it was interesting what he said about him recently, the manager, saying that he just has to, there's a few things that he has to work on with him, and bridging that gap between playing for the B team and playing for the Rangers first team. He still is a young lad. I think he's just turned 17, if I'm not mistaken. But that aside, I know Zach Lovelace is back on the grass. Whether he features for the first team in the next few weeks remains to be seen, but I'd imagine he will be part of that winter training camp. But is that something to be concerned about, Jonny, the players coming through the academy, or...
Of course it is. I mean, the academy's not been producing enough players, and the manager says there's only one player at the moment that's ready to come in, and that's Ross McCausland. So he doesn't clearly think Leon King's ready. He clearly doesn't think Adam Devine's ready. He doesn't think Bailey Rice is ready. So that's obviously a concern, and I think the manager has said that having worked in a youth academy in the past himself, it's something he's very passionate about. So. Listen, Rangers, I think, have to go back to the drawing board a little bit with the youth academy. They have to look at what it produces and what it's doing. And I think they have to try different things. I think that's what's happening under the new academy director. We know, obviously, Craig Mulholland's gone now, and Zeb Jacobs is in his place. And you've got to give Zeb Jacobs the time to look at everything and try again. The thing about youth academies, Derek, and this is a big problem, is they kind of go against the grain of Scottish football in that you can only really judge an academy director probably over 10 years.
Yeah.
Because, when do you see the fruits of their labour? It's way down the line. So, from that point of view, I think got to accept that things are not great at the moment, and there needs to be time given to see it improve. Now, having said that, I've spoken to people who have been involved in the academy in the past, and they're adamant that there's a really good group of players just waiting to come through down the line. Not ready yet, but down the line. And listen, people say that, they always say that. But I remember I talked to Craig Mulholland before he left, and he said, that from his point of view, you're looking at the setup that he's done there in terms of the Beauclair Academy, which the players go and they do their education and they do their football. It's very much aligned in terms of football in the morning before they start. They go to their lessons. They have their lunch. They get a bit of football at lunchtime. They go back and they do their lessons again. Some of them might be football related, and then they go out and they play in after school finishes. So you're getting that 10,000 hours to make you an expert by the time you come out of 6th year. And this next group, I think, that's coming through in the under-18s might well be, I think, the first that's come out of Beauclair that's gone from 1st year to 6th year. So it's the first full group that you're going to see, and I think it's important to see how the next couple of years of that comes on. Are we seeing more technically proficient players? And having new ideas from the guys from Belgium, I think is good, and we're going to see innovations there. And clearly, Zeb's a young guy who, if you follow him on social media, you can see that he's definitely a football thinker and definitely somebody that wants to try new things and wants to push the boundaries of what goes on in academies. Try different sports, try the learnings from different sports, and implement that. That's been something that I've heard a lot. So I think like 5 years will be the time to judge him on how he's done. And I think at this stage, you can just say there's just not enough coming through. Derek, can I give you one last hot take?
Yes,
because
fire away.
Kind of asked me this, and I suppose it's me being a sort of eternal optimist. Some people will say that, but I actually believe this, so I'm just going to come out with it, Derek. I still think Rangers are going to win this league.
I agree.
I don't see, and listen, this may be clipped up down the line, and if I've got it wrong, I've got it wrong, and so be it. I think this is a very good manager Rangers have. I think going to Parkhead, getting beaten 2-1, having better expected goals than your opponent, and having more shots on goal than your opponent, these games can turn on a coin flip. And I think that's what happened today. I think there's a number of situations that went in Celtic's favour in the game, didn't go in Rangers' favour. Nothing dodgy going on or anything like that. Although I did think there was some questionable elements, as we've discussed, in terms of the VAR decision on that, and in terms of that need to be cleared up. But I think there's enough that we've seen under Clement so far. A relentless record in the league. He's dropped points at Parkhead, and he's dropped 2 points at Aberdeen in a game that he should have won. I think we've seen better teams than this, better Rangers teams than this, go to Parkhead and lose. It can happen. It more often than not happens. And the next one's at Ibrox. If Rangers win, they're 2 games in hand. There's 2 points difference. If they keep up the relentless form they've shown, I think they'll be fine. Now, Celtic can still get back players. There's no doubt that Cameron Carter-Vickers and Hatate is going to improve them. I'm sure Kyogo will now go on a run where he's much improved. But I think Rangers will improve. I think they'll make signings that will improve them. You've got to trust that this manager will know 1 or 2 players that will be able to come in and add something. And there's just a steeliness about this team now that I've seen over a number of games. They didn't quite get the rub of the green in situations today, and there was a couple of poor performers. But it comes down to the final third today, Derek. And I've seen a lot of people talking about mindset and mentality. That wasn't the issue today. It was simply
the reaction to going down to 10 showed me everything I need to know that he's turned this squad around and he's going to improve them in January. That's why I feel you just feel comfortable with Clement at the helm, Jonny. I think, whereas previous Rangers would have lost by 4 or 5.
I totally agree with you, Derek. I totally agree with you on that point about the comfort that you feel with Clement in charge. I don't think there's a reason to get over the top or to get panicked by a defeat at Parkhead. They've got a good manager and Celtic have got good players, and it's not what Rangers want or Rangers fans want to see, but it was a coin flip style game, and over time, and I think with new players in the transfer window, few in, few out, I think you're going to see a much improved Rangers by the end of January, start of February, going into March, and then we'll see where this league goes. But it's still very, very much on a knife edge. When Clement arrived, we were all saying it was over. There was 7 points.
Yep.
Rangers, if they win their 2 games in hand, are 2 points behind. So just focus on what you can actually make a difference in, and that's obviously going to face Kilmarnock. They're in good form. They're a difficult side to beat. They'll be up for the fight, and Rangers have to get over that hurdle. If they get over that hurdle, they can go into the break, regroup. The manager can then actually do some tactical work, because it's just been game after game after game, Derek.
Yeah,
probably a bigger man management job than anything else up until now. But you'll have an opportunity when they go out on this trip to Portugal to really instill some sort of technical and tactical values into the team.
Spain, isn't it?
Make a little bit of a little bit of a tweak here and there.
Yeah,
and I think that'll see a better Rangers. Now, Sima going is going to be a big loss. That's obviously not great news, and that'll make it incumbent once again on the board to try and back the manager as much as they can. But I know for a fact, Derek, that the board have been blown away by what Philippe Clement has done. I know for a fact that they feel that they've got a real manager at the helm. They've got a real top quality manager, and they worked hard to make sure they ticked all the boxes when they went and got Philippe Clement. And I think from what they've seen so far, they realise they've got a right good one. Yeah. So I would be very shocked if they weren't going out their way to provide him with the kind of backing that he needs to, within reason, to mould Rangers into his image a little bit more. I don't think they're far off, and I don't think in today's game anyone should be disconsolate or upset, because I thought it was a right good game of football and it was turned on a dime. And the next game at Ibrox can be very different. You've got to remember as well, Derek, and this has not been kind of touched on. See, having no fans at the ground, that's a big disadvantage. A big disadvantage. Celtic were able to overcome that at Ibrox in the first game, but Rangers were all over the place back then.
Yeah.
And this game today was a much more even encounter. One last point, and then I'll stop this long rambling monologue. The last time I felt like this was Celtic 3, Rangers 2. It was the game when Morelos got sent off, Derek, after 25 minutes for a petulant kick out at Scott Brown. It's the infamous one where Ryan Kent, it wasn't really a punch, it was more like a push, but it looked like a punch from the videos. And I think Rangers got it back to 2-2, didn't they? And then Forrest scores at the end, makes it 3-2, and they win. And everyone's giving it, oh, that's Celtic, they just win. And of course, people are saying that now. But actually, I thought in that game, Rangers are getting right close here.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rangers are getting right close here from that game today. More shots, better XG, very little difference in possession. Celtic had slightly more. I think you think of the Deso's chance, that's not even included as an XG opportunity. So the penalty's not even included, the penalty instant, So I think there's actually a lot in the cold, hard light of day. When you think about it and you watch the highlights again tomorrow, I think there'll a lot of people going, actually, you know what? Very little's changed. This guy still knows what he's doing. This guy is still going to have the transfer window to bring in his own players. He's still got to the last 16 of the Europa League, which nobody would have thought possible. He's cut the gap from 7 to 2.
He's won a trophy.
If you win the 2 games in hand, and he's won the League Cup. That's still a remarkable set of circumstances to be in at this stage.
Yeah.
Given where Rangers were after that 3-1 defeat to Aberdeen at Ibrox. Now, I was in the press conference that day, Derek. Nobody would have believed to have gone from there to here. And the jump from here to champions, I don't think is as big. So it's just about going away and tweaking those little things, making sure above all that these signings that come in the transfer window can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
If they do that, Derek, as I say, I'm confident actually. I think Rangers will win this league. So
yeah, I share your optimism, as does Richard as well, who's watching over in Brisbane. So thank you very much for your company this evening. Richard, just a final word as well. I know I broke the bad news in the show earlier on today, but some of the comments that have come in the last few shows just showed you how much she was loved. Caroline, as John McKean says, she was a stalwart of the Rangers Review. RIP is desperately sad news today. Certainly puts today's game into perspective. So our thoughts and wishes from everyone at the Rangers Review go out to Caroline's friends and family. She was much loved and a very treasured member of the community here at the Rangers Review. So rest in peace, Caroline. Right, that'll do us there. As I mentioned in the show with myself and Joshua and Chris earlier, I will be on with Joshua tomorrow morning. He's busy watching the game back as we speak. So have all the graphs and what have you on the screen tomorrow as he delves into the detail. So we hope you can join us for that at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Until then, I usually say enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's difficult after that defeat today, but as Jonny says, I think there is still plenty of optimism around with Philippe Clement at the helm. But thanks very much for watching as ever, guys. Huge thanks to Jonny also, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.